Agora torna assim, aqui. Tanabiat. Aquesta nit ens divertirem. Go, Joe!
I'm very good. Very good. Yes.
You never forget us.
Of course not. Are you kidding me?
So Bruce, thank you for accepting this interview
and
for bringing to Spain the Seeger session. We shall overcome because only 10 European cities is going to see the show, and you never forget us.
Well, I can't do that. You know, we had a very short trip because my daughter is graduating and the kids are in school and they're getting older, and so now they don't like you away from home very long. So but hopefully we will get back to Spain for some more, you know. But
maybe in autumn, you say in Milan?
Yes, it's very possible. I have to think, and then tonight I will see. But it is possible.
You perform.
Es posible.
Es posible. Good Spanish. You perform in the same theater when a year ago you do the solo tour.
Really?
Yeah, the same place.
Play by myself in this big building?
Yes, but now with 20 musicians.
Right. So tonight should be easy.
Tonight the experience will be different.
Oh yes.
It's more fun, more people will sing.
A lot of singing. You know, the funny thing about those songs that were written so long ago is they had the great choruses. You know, they had these fabulous sing-along choruses. Old Dan Tucker, Jacob's Ladder. They were built to be community pieces. And it was at a time when hey, people sang together a lot. So all of that music, when the chorus rolled around, they were real. I think music was perhaps, even though it still is, if you imagine several hundred years ago or 150 years ago, it was a very particular and I'm sure somewhat different communal experience. You know, before there was television, before there was radio, when people just sat around in their living rooms or at small dances in union halls or bars or taverns. And so the songs were quite convivial, even though they expressed an enormous amount of hardship and struggling. There's also an enormous spirit in them, and they were written to be sung with. You know? So what we've tried to do is I went in and I sort of picked my favorite songs first time out and ones that had choruses that just caught my ear. And also the songs have tremendous vitality. Mm-hmm. And I think they carry with them the vitality that it took for those characters to build America came from over here, went to this, and so America is a nation of discontented people. Everybody was an entire nation of malcontents, because that's the folks that went, and so there was this enormous vitality and strength, and we try to bring that part out in our show.
So I can't believe you do the record in 3 days.
Did the record in 3 days, you know? Otherwise the whole thing was an accident, and if you'd have told me last year that I would be back in Barcelona so soon, I would say, I'm not so sure. It usually takes me longer, you know? But because I had part of the record for quite many years, and then I did another session. Almost all of the record was really 2 days, and I did one final session where I recorded Eyes on the Prize and I think Jacob's Ladder, you know, and Buffalo Girls. But it was just very room like this, everyone sitting, some microphones.
You had fun, eh?
And everybody playing 2 or 3 times, no rehearsal, no learning the song, conducting as I went. And the music is fundamentally so simple, you know, that it plays itself from the very beginning, you know. And then the band, the musicians I found were they ended up being just very, very talented, you know. And they had sort of a Louisiana Southern feeling, and so that crept in. And then I invited the horn players, so there was some early Kansas City jazz and Dixieland music from the 20s and 30s, and that crept in. So we would have Jesse James with a Dixieland with a brass band horn section, which worked very well because brass bands, you know, around the turn of the century, and that was once again that was the loud music of its day. That was the raucous music of its day. Horns were so loud, you know.
At the end of the room, the horns.
And the electric guitar actually was invented to keep up with the horn section, because the horns were so loud, you know. And
you have fun anyway, because at home I see the DVD was some whiskey, some beer, dances. Great time.
Very, very enjoyable, and it's also, it catalogs us. Each is a little small catalog of a part of American history and American music history.
1, 2, 1,
The music is very transmits happiness, but also the lyrics, there's political and social compromise. You started the tour in New Orleans,
right?
That wasn't casual, right?
No, that was probably the most challenging show, because for several reasons. One is a lot of the band's influences come out of New Orleans. A lot of the horn things we do and brass band sounds we do. So you're going down to play for the people who invented a big part of it. And there are many excellent brass bands. You know, there's so many great brass bands in New Orleans. And then also, you know, because of the tragedy of New Orleans over the past year, and it was just a very, you know, it was a city lost half of its population, miles and miles of homes completely and utterly destroyed. You would have to imagine a city post-World War II, or with just so much destruction in it. It was impossible to see the water line on every house up to here. You know, we went to where the levees broke, and enormous long swaths of the levee where the wall gave in and the river rushed in. Or actually, it was the lake. But so it was very it was very intense. I think for all the musicians that went there, there was a sense of it's the mother city of American music. It's where all the European influences ended up in a big melting pot, and American music was born. Blues, jazz, rock and roll, gospel, field music. It all, poured out of that one little city. It's still a very magical place, and it was still one of the few places that had not been Disneyfied yet. It was still, you could still go there and really feel the city's grit and see good musicians still playing on the street. It was just the most colorful and exciting and one of the most interesting culturally of all American cities. So it was very important, and we wanted to play well, and it was our first show, and the band hadn't played in front of large crowds. They've played in front of small crowds before. My cousin had not played in front of any crowds. He was, I believe, he's a real estate man in down south, and so he went from Asbury Park to, I'd take him on stage in front of 70,000 people. He did very well, but so it was all people having that experience very often for the first time, but it was very exciting, and it was very fulfilling, and people got very emotional, and it was a lovely place to start the tour. And
you rewrote the song.
Yeah, we learned.
How can a poor man stand such times?
Yeah, the blind Alfred Reed was a song written during the Depression. I wrote 3 verses because the government response to the hurricane was just so dismal and so terrible. The emergency management agency had been fundamentally corrupted by political cronyism and political appointments, so that when an emergency actually came, there was no one there that had real experience to know exactly what to do. And
on TV we saw when Mr. Bush received the notice that something was happening, that Katrina was arriving.
Days went by. And people drowned, and people lost their lives, and people have lost their entire livelihoods, homes. Many musicians driven out of the city. There's never been an exodus of an American population from its home like that since the Dust Bowl, since the Oklahoma Dust Bowl. So it was this great national tragedy, and the government totally failed us in. So it was when you're down, it also makes you very angry. So we have this song, how can a poor man stand such times?
He took a look around and a little bit talk. I'm with you, and he took a little walk.
Yeah, so we did that. We learned Saints Go Marching In, which is, of course, sort of the theme song of New Orleans. And so the show is filled during the night with the spirit of the city and the current, what's happening in America.
Well, it goes down your plan, Mom, that Mom. Well, the Lord John, but he couldn't find her. He came home too drunk from mixing Tangeray and wine. He got a gun shot at night, clerk out at Column Johnny 99.
That's the States right now. Though it's getting less, there's a lot of disillusionment, and I can only imagine there's going to be some real change in the government over the next 6 years. First with the Congress and in the mid. So there's an enormous amount of disillusionment and whoa, we bought the wrong car, which is a good thing at the moment. People are disillusioned by the war and economics, and basically, I think you had a small group of people who had a certain ideology for a long time, who finally got into power and were able to impress themselves on a very immature and unqualified president. Because even in all of George Bush's campaign speeches, he ended up coming into office and doing 180, a complete turnaround. In what even in from his own campaign speeches. So And then they took advantage of September 11th, and there was a lot of fear and insecurity in the country, and people want to believe and trust in their leaders and their government, and they got taken for a ride. Bottom line is, we got taken for a ride. It was a shame to see, and we tried to stop it, but you know, it cost thousands of people their lives, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Iraq their lives, but they got the money going, I believe, to the people who they wanted them to. They got the tax cuts, and they got the war that they wanted, and where they wanted, and they got the, you know, they're padding the pockets of the big corporations that they worked for, and they got the energy policy that they wanted, you know, made in secret with the energy companies, and it's been a tremendous the loss of just the level of just democratic values has been tremendous, you know.
Down in the where we live, you don't stop. Johnny's waiting in his ready to go his time. When it all comes knocking from behind, round the front of the top, they smash their lips on Johnny 99. Who said it's but the James got mine. They came in the courtroom, scared young Johnny down. When he asked you, gonna let the sentence of it high. Prison for 98, we'll call it even Johnny 99.
All the American folk songs are filled with the raw voice of democracy. So our job is to add my voice and my musicians, and to bring it into the present for an audience that maybe have been familiar with them or may not have been familiar with them, and impress upon people why this music matters right now. You know, why it's a part of America that needs to be seen right now, that needs to be remembered right now. It's the kind of democratic voice that needs to be heard right now, and hopefully we do our small bit of ambassadorship as we go around and remind people of a different America than they get from the current administration in the States.
Songs have been versioned many times. So what do you think Pete Seeger thought in the first listening to your record?
I'm not sure. He wrote me a letter. It took a little while, but he may have listened a bit first, you know. Well, actually, when I first sent him "We Shall Overcome," then he called me right away because he loved it, and so then I got a lovely letter where he was interested in the way that I brought the horns in, and I did some radical changes. I changed keys, some things from major to minor, which makes something quite a bit darker, like "Oh Mary," the gospel song. I tried to bring out its apocalyptic side, and so I turned it to a minor key, and also it's the energy is it's a very rock and roll energy that we bring to all that music, which I think is in keeping with the original characters, because if you listen to the original versions, very raw, very raucous, outsiders, very untamed, very wild voices, which is what's beautiful about them.
There's plenty of young people out there waiting for you. What's your impression? In the beginning, you see only groupies, and now you see your son's friend.
You mean? Well, I guess I don't know. You're always thankful for any audience that you draw, and attracting an audience is not easy to do.
No.
And it can't be taken for granted. And even though I've had one for a long, long time, when I'm at home and somebody goes, "Oh, we played Barcelona, they went on sale and people bought them," I always go, God bless the Spanish. I'm always at home in New Jersey. I'm blessing the Spanish, and thanking them because I go many different places, and to have an audience not only that cares about all the work you've done for such a long time, but that's willing to follow you to so many different places, whether I come alone or I come with this kind of music that brings its intensity and its passion and is willing to be so open, which takes an awful lot of faith. It takes, and that faith is something you can never take that for granted. To me, in my life, it's a very beautiful thing, because I don't get it. I get a little bit other places, but not to the degree and intensity that I get here. And of course, when we go to Italy, and there's just a level of passion and a faith that if they come, something wonderful will happen. And so you say, "Gee, I've worked all these years. I can't promise you the same thing will happen every time, but if you come, something wonderful will happen." I try to give you that promise. And so for people to take that in their arms and to say, "Okay, well, let me come and see. I don't know what tonight is going to be like, but I'm going to come." And that is a tremendous amount of trust in me, and that's something that I take very seriously. I take very seriously, and I take that dedication and that faithfulness very seriously, and I always appreciate what happens when I come here,
El mejor. Para mí el blues es media vida.
El Bruce Springsteen el mejor del mundo.
Para mí el mejor de todos. Impresionante. Me encanta Bruce, lo sigo desde hace un montón de años.
En Milán es muy bueno, esta noche es fantástico.
1000 kilómetros para verlo.
Vengo de Asturias.
Venimos de Cantabria y para mí esto significa lo más.
Nos gusta mucho, mucho.
deeply appreciated. And, you know, every time is a new adventure. It's a new adventure every time out. And so to have the freedom to do whatever fills my heart and hope that it will fill your heart. You know,
it don't happen with every artist. It only happens with you.
Well, that's what I assumed, of course.
So that's not the Spanish guitar.
This is a guitar that I actually had made for this tour.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's nice. There's a lot of milagros. And the idea is that's, you know, they're called, in Mexico, they're called milagros. I'm not sure if the word means the same. Miracles. And people would, and I'm sure some of this must have also come from Spain, because the idea was that at altars they would go and they would pin, if you needed your arm restored or to be cured, or the health of your animals during harvest season, or corn, if you wanted the health of your crops.
It's good life.
It was all meant as a request. You know, it's like a prayer for good fortune. And some of these other things are just things from my Catholic school upbringing that I had in a box. And I decided I would create this folk art guitar from all these different little miracles and icons, you know. So it's I have a few other ones I'm working on, you know. But yes. So, and it didn't hurt the sound of the guitar. I'm glad it. I thought that gluing all these things might make a difference, you know. But
You used it tonight?
Of course.
Oh.
In your honor.
Yeah. Cheating every time.
In this guitar.
Oh yeah. Sure. So something next for the show tonight now.
Oh, what are we doing for the show tonight? Let me see. This was the song we learned from New Orleans. It's sort of the theme song from the city, and it's been played by all the great brass bands, and of course Louis Armstrong. And I came across two verses that I had never heard before, but the first one kind of explains a little bit about what my band tonight and our project is. So I'll sing a verse, and it goes out. We are all traveling in the footsteps of those who come before, and we'll all be reunited on a new and sunlit shore. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. The rest tonight. Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
See you later.